The DJ's voice came over the speakers, 2 words, couples skate. The music slowed down, the lights changed, and if you were a 10-year-old in 5th grade at a roller skating rink, you felt it in your stomach before you even processed what was happening. You didn't want to do it, but you also didn't not want to do it. And somehow that combination of feelings was worse than either one alone. I'm Rusty, this is the Unsupervised Era, and today we're talking about the roller skating rink, the couples skate specifically, and why 2 minutes on a wooden oval holding someone's sweaty hand might have been the most psychologically loaded experience of the entire Gen X childhood. So I grew up about 45 minutes south of Seattle, and every year from kindergarten through 6th grade, our school did a roller skating field trip. At one of my elementary schools, we had 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and we'd go together as a school. So a couple hundred kids would load up on a line of yellow school buses and head down to the rink for the day. It felt like cheating, like we'd gotten away with something. You were supposed to be at school, but instead you're going to a roller skating rink. And the teachers were there, but they really couldn't do anything once we were on the floor. That was our space. They stayed on the carpet. And the rink had a very specific feel the second you walked in. That carpet especially, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was purple with some sort of crazy swirling pattern that looked like it belonged in a casino. And I'm convinced that someone made an absolute killing selling that carpet in the 80s and 90s specifically. Every rink had it, every bowling alley had it, it was in arcades, it was in casinos. There's some company out there that made a killing for about 20 years with that carpet. And the smell that comes to mind immediately to me was the smell of leather. It was like that hot, wet leather. And I remember walking in thinking like, isn't anyone else noticing this? You'd also smell whatever they were spraying in the return skates. It was some sort of Lysol situation. And underneath those smells, you kind of smell the floor itself. It was a specific smell that wood gets over 30 years of use, kind of like you smell in a historic hotel. My grandparents' house smelled like it. I don't know, old wood just has a smell to it. So you walked in and you knew exactly where you were by the smell before your eyes could even adjust. Then you'd go get your skates. You'd sit on a bench and then untie your shoes and then walk in your socks over to that counter where you'd hand over your shoes. And they had this funny rule. I don't even know why they needed to do this, but I remember handing my shoes over and then the guy behind the counter would say, "Hey, you got to put your shoelaces in your shoes." And then he'd go help somebody else. Like he wouldn't put the shoelaces in the shoes himself. It would take less than 2 seconds. But they would wait for you to put the shoelaces in your shoes. And if you didn't, you'd have to wait while they'd help somebody else. You'd put your shoelaces in your shoes. Then they would come back, roll their eyes, act super put out that they were helping you. Take your shoes, put them in the cubby hole. And then for me, they would hand me my size 12 skates because I had big feet as a kid. So the skates were always the same. There was always like that sort of tan color, like the light brown suede. And then the bright orange wheels and then the bright orange stopper. Since I had a larger shoe size and my skates didn't get used as much, my wheels always worked really well. I had a stopper that was still intact. It sounded like a good thing, but the downside was that my skates hadn't been broken in. So I paid for it every single time. 4 or 5 hours in these stiff leather skates and I'd have blisters the size of quarters on both heels by the end of the night. Those gross water blisters that you had to deal with. You know what I'm talking about. And the place had a disco vibe that felt a little bit out of place for a school field trip, and there's a reason for that. A lot of roller rinks were either built or upgraded during the late 70s during the disco era. That was kind of like the peak of roller skating and roller disco, so they were designed for adults. I vividly remember being 7 or 8 years old when my mom tried to take us to a roller skating rink for my birthday on a Friday night. She walked a group of about 5 or 6 of us up to pay, and they turned us away at the door. On Friday and Saturday nights, that roller skating rink that we went to all the time had turned into an 18 or older roller disco night. So I remember stepping out of line devastated as 18, 19, and 20-year-olds walked past us, and for some reason they were all wearing satin jackets. I think it was like the peak satin jacket era. So I'm sitting out there bummed as red satin jackets and pink satin jackets walk past me. It was a full Studio 54 situation happening at what used to be my birthday destination. Eventually the disco trend died and the adults handed these skating rinks down to us kids. But the infrastructure stayed. The mirror ball, the disco light rigs, they were all there. But the funniest thing was a DJ booth in the corner of the rink. So the roller skating rink was kind of the old worn out wood floor, and then the rest of the place was carpeted, but then the DJ booth was kind of up a little bit higher, like maybe 3 or 4 feet higher than the rest of the skating rink, and it was way over the top, looking too serious for the situation. So you'd have plexiglass facing the rink up on a platform, and the whole thing was completely out of proportion to what was happening on the floor, but it was also kind of awesome. And the DJs were way over the top as well. Like, I'm convinced they all came from that disco era. So here it is, the early 80s, and they're still doing this job, but now they're saying questionable things that are probably not appropriate for a kid's roller skating party. But it was hilarious and over the top at the same time, just a funny memory. But the skating referees brought an entirely different energy. They were way too serious for what the job description required. They were not enjoying the moment. None of them liked kids. But yeah, if you're having fun and skated a little bit too fast, they'd have a whistle, they'd blow the whistle, and they'd make a huge scene, and you're just having a good time skating a little bit too fast. And if you fell, they would circle around you and blow a whistle, and I swear this might be like a fake memory, but I remember one of them had one of those orange traffic cones, and if you fell, they'd put the orange traffic cone down, blow the whistle several times, and skate around you and put their hands up like this is a serious hazard. So they're mad that you skated fast, but then they would skate fast themselves. It was totally hypocritical. And they had a lit up sign on the wall that told you what was happening at any given time. You had all skate, ladies only, boys only, trios, reverse, couples, and a couple other ones. And each row would light up and tell you which one was active at the time. All skate was the baseline. The floor would fill up and you'd get into a rhythm. Turning left felt so natural, your muscles figured out the floor pretty fast. And if you were the type of kid who had the roller skating skills to do that crossover move through the corner, your right foot crossing in front of your left, smooth and slick through the turn, you did it every single time, whether it helped or not. It absolutely did not help, but you did it anyway. Then Boys Fast Skate would come on, and it was something else. They put on something with real momentum, like Hell's Bells by AC/DC or Working for the Weekend by Loverboy. And the boys who were going for it would get this look on their faces, like completely serious and intense, like they were about to compete in something that actually mattered. There wasn't a prize, there wasn't an official race, but every guy out there had the same expression of total focus, absolutely committed to going fast in a circle. It was genuinely one of the funnier things I witnessed as a child, but I'm sure I had the same stupid look on my face. The girls' fast skate ran at the same speed with like 10% of the drama. They'd go fast and look like they were just having fun. The contrast was remarkable. And then reverse skate would come on, and this was the one that exposed your weaknesses. You'd been going left for an hour and your body had that locked in. Now you're going right and the crossover is backward. You'd have to cross the left in front of the right, and that was way harder. And whatever confidence you had, that just evaporated. I was super fancy and had the skills going left. That was a real thing. I was awesome at it. But going right, that was a weakness. It was genuinely dangerous for me. And then the DJ's voice would come back on. Those two dreaded words, couples skate. What actually happened during couples skate that nobody talks about, the boys would immediately cluster together on the carpet in one area, and the girls would find another area and do the same thing. So the one session that was specifically designed for boys and girls to mix together produced the most gender-separated movement of the entire day. Because if you were standing near a girl and you weren't planning to ask her, you didn't want her to think you were about to. And when the song started, there was just a handful of kids out there who were actually brave enough to go out there. And every school had 2 to 3 guys that the girls wanted to skate with, and 2 or 3 girls that the guys couldn't stop thinking about. And those 2 groups almost never skated together during couple skate. Everyone was too scared. The people you actually wanted to be out there with were the exact people nobody approached. But occasionally, and I mean just occasionally, some guy would walk across the carpet and ask one of those girls. And the rink would know about it immediately. Nobody announced it. Nobody had to. Word just traveled. And that guy was a legend for the rest of the day. Sometimes that guy was me. Not with the girl everyone wanted to skate with. I want to be perfectly clear about that. but I'd force myself to go out there and ask a random girl about a third of the time. Something would come over me and I would just give in to the pressure and I'd just go ask a girl. And they never said no. I think it was mutual shyness or politeness operating in both directions. Nobody wanted the specific awkwardness of a no, so you'd always get a yes and you just had to go out there and actually do it. Now here's the thing about the timing that nobody ever talks about. The song started playing the second couple skate was announced. But you weren't asking anyone in the first 10 to 15 seconds. You were standing there on the carpet having an internal debate, watching other people go, waiting for the right moment that didn't feel embarrassing. So by the time you actually walked over there, asked, got a yes, and made it out to the floor, the song was already a minute and a half in. You had maybe 2 minutes left, which is exactly why the title of this video says 2 minutes, so I'm going to stand by that. But consider the other scenario. If you were one of the rare kids who actually asked someone right away when the song started, you had to skate the entire 4-minute song holding hands the whole time. This sounds better until you're 2.5 minutes in and have fully exhausted your conversational options and your hands are completely soaked with sweat and the song still has another verse to go. So there was actually an optimal window, about a minute into the song. And the songs they choose often made it even more awkward, like the song Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner. Something where the lyrics, if you actually thought about them, made the whole situation even funnier and more awkward. And you'd be skating, holding hands, both of you looking forward, occasionally glancing over, not really talking because there's genuinely nothing obvious to say. The sweat situation on the hand was real. So for me, I was a skinny kid, high metabolism, so some of that sweat was mine. I'll own that. But I'm also convinced it was a collaborative situation. Some of that sweat had to come from the girl's hand, and it was a sweaty mess. I had a strong preference for being on the left side. The left side meaning that I was holding her hand with my right hand, which meant I could lead through the corners and do that crossover thing and look kind of cool. But if I ended up on the right side, I'd have to be holding her hands with my left hand. Suddenly she's pulling me through the turns, which is a whole different feeling. Not cool, not one that I was going for. And when the song ended, you kind of drifted apart. You didn't really know what to do. I may have said thanks once. I'm not sure why I did that. But as soon as the girl got out of sight, I'd wipe my hands down the front of my Britannia jeans, just right on the thighs, and that would get wet. And then I'd go get a licorice rope. And that was couples skate. And what I didn't understand at the time, which I kind of get as an adult, is what couples skate was actually asking of you. By 5th grade, you'd been physically brave plenty of times. BMX ramps, rope swings, the high dive, taking a hit in a soccer game, you knew how to manage that. Couples skate was asking for something completely different. You were walking across the carpet to say 3 words to someone, and the thing that could get hurt wasn't your body. There was nothing to land on if it went wrong, no way to roll out of it. This was the first version of a kind of bravery that would matter for the rest of your life, and it was happening at a roller skating rink in 5th grade with Foreigner or Night Ranger playing on the speakers. At the end of the day, you turn in your skates, get your shoes back from the cubbyhole, and put them back on. And for about 10 minutes, the world felt wrong. You'd been moving on wheels all day, up a little higher than normal, covering the ground the way skates let you cover it. Then your shoes went back on, and suddenly you were shorter, and every step felt like you were walking in slippers. And your body didn't trust the ground for a little while. You were a superhero for 4 hours, and then you put your shoes back on and became a regular kid again. You got back on the yellow bus. By the time you pulled into the school parking lot, the blisters had started. You knew exactly what to do about those. But that other thing, whatever happened out there on that floor for 2 minutes, you had no idea what to do with that. Turns out, that one took considerably longer to figure out.